Biohacker Summit 2019 live stream. It's not over yet. We still have some very exciting stuff here today. I have Max Gotzler, who just finished his speech over here at the Biohacker Summit. If you don't yet have access to the live stream, definitely go get it now, because that's where all the secrets are being told. But this is a small taste of what's going on here today.
All
so
right.
Max,
Angel,
tell our audience what's the biggest takeaway that you're giving today.
that I'm giving today. All right, my biggest takeaway is to have more flow. What does that actually mean? So I want to get you into a state where you perform and feel your best. And the easiest I think that people can do that is doing something that they like and that they're good at. It's like children, they play. And I think we lose that more and more. And we see that in trends that people are having a hard time with getting into a flow state, which is comparable to an ecstatic state. It's something that you get maybe when you're dancing or when you're, pop a party pill and then go off crazy. The thing is, though, that we use more and more technology and pills in order to do that, but our body actually can do that by itself. You can get into a state like that by just letting it happen. And the problem is our environment, though, poses so many stressors around us in terms of nutrition, in our workplaces, and lighting, in our sleep schedules and demands that we have for each other as a society. And so that all is inhibiting our alpha waves, our flow state. And my message is in order to get out of your head once in a while, like that's sort of my message.
How do we do that?
There are three easy, I think, ways nowadays that you can do that. Actually, the first one might sound a little ridiculous, but it's just get offline. Because one of the major problems with all these apps that we have nowadays and social media is that they sell themselves as being complementary to us, right? So it's like, show your photos to your friends, like have them take part in your life, like it's super complementary to your lifestyle and you can share everything. But in reality, actually, they're undermining us. They're taking advantage of our weaknesses and showing us things that we compare ourselves to, market products, and pretty much use our time to make money. And also when you're thinking about someone, let's say a teenager, think about me sitting on the couch and scrolling down your Instagram timeline, you get into an almost meditative theta state, but it's not one of the beneficial ones. You might have had that experience that you wake up hours later and all of a sudden it's dark outside and you've just wasted hours because you were in an altered state, but not in one that makes you feel happy and enriched. And so the first advice is really to get offline at least once a week. Why not? Go outside, leave the phone at home. Or there are a couple other advices where you could, for example, switch to a grayscale on your phone. That's another piece of advice that I usually give where it's not so attractive to look at your phone anymore because it's so colorful. It looks super fun and press on the buttons and it's almost like gamified. So you can do that. Or you can just eliminate a lot of the social apps and just use them when you're, for example, at the desktop. But that's a huge thing, and we're being kidnapped. Our brains are being kidnapped every day, and we are aware of it, but we still can't help it, and that's why we need to build environments that help us. And so that's the first piece. A second one that really is well studied, and it's also something not very new, but in order to get into a flow state is meditation. And why? Because right now, when you open your eyes, you're already scanning your environment for risks, for how people will react to you. Look, they're funny. Do you have something in your face, and do you react? So you're always questioning what is happening. You're judging yourself by how your environment reacts to yourself. How can you shut that off? Just by closing your eyes. So one of the most simple things in order to get your alpha waves to increase is to close your eyes and touch yourself. Actually, human touch is also a trigger for alpha waves, so that normal thinker's pose, like the Rodin's thinker, that's an easy way when you're at a workplace and you need to be creative, for example, you need to think of something and you need to get out of your head for a while, close your eyes and touch yourself.
Is there amount of time that you need to do that for your...
As long as you need to. For example, I had a doctor that showed me actually the exercise, a neurofeedback specialist. That was quite funny. So I was thinking of a book that I wanted to recommend to him, and I couldn't think of the author anymore, but I somehow remembered what the book was about, and I described it to him. He's like, I might have heard of it. Wait, I'm going to go into alpha for a second.
Okay.
It's Bill Walsh's book.
Interesting.
It was quite
Is there
fascinating.
a scientific explanation behind that? Like, why does that?
Yeah. So when you close your eyes, you shut off the primary source of information that we, as human beings, you get. You know, we use our eyes a lot. And when you don't get that information anymore, I actually saw that on my brain scans. So there was an open eyes baseline and a closed eyes baseline.
Okay.
And when you open your eyes, all of a sudden your beta goes up because you're thinking about your environment and judging and looking also for scanning for factors that might endanger you. Like, let's say, you know, back in the woods.
Yeah.
So if there are animals around or something like that, so you need to be aware. But if you close your eyes, it's a signal to your body there's no threat around you right now.
Okay.
And then the alpha waves shoot up. And I saw that in the scan. So it's really about that you just close one of the biggest channel of information incoming, and then you have more processing power in order to then produce alpha waves and get into a state. With the touch part is also actually based to fear. So if you want to live high, you have to live outside of time. That's a quote by Ram Dass. And also another one by Suzuki Roshi is fear is the basis, time is the basis of fear. So when you think about it, yes, it is, because I have to pay my rent maybe next month. So that's the basis of fear. Or I'm afraid my mom is sick, I have to care for her. It's just, it's also time, you know, time is sort of the basis of fear. And in flow, you get out of time and you have to lose fear. And there's actually a psychiatrist who came up with a device also that is sort of vibrating on your wrist. And it's used on children with ADHD because it calms them down.
Okay.
Because human touch is usually something that says that you're safe, you're secure. And apparently, it even works when you touch yourself.
Okay.
So...
is it a case of like which came first? Can you trick your brain to calm down by doing that? Or how does it work? Like if you're stressed and nervous or thinking or worrying and then you want to focus and calm down and get into that creative state.
If you think about the typical gestures that people that are stressed do, they rub themselves, they touch themselves, they scratch. So they do already use touch in order to like somehow deal with the stress and with the fear. Or they clamp up.
Yeah.
Almost they hug themselves, you know, it's like almost a protective. So there is a feedback mechanism that probably works both ways. So on the one hand, when you're scared, you're looking for touch, but also when you touch yourself, you feel less scared. So that's an easy way. Also go for a hug. You know, it's one of the easiest things we can do as human beings, surround ourselves with people we feel comfortable with. They take away the fear instantly because you feel, okay, if I don't make enough rent, I can sleep at my friend's house. So, and now what we do is we usually live in apartments by ourselves, and we have social media in order to maintain our social circles. We order food to come home to us, so you don't have to interact. Here at an event, it's great for flow because you interact with people, you touch, you give high fives, you hug, you talk. So you lose yourself in the moment. And who of us, especially us right now, do you think about tomorrow or next week or what you have to do? No, you're just in the moment now. And you can lose yourself. And I think we can do that. We can relearn that as people also in their everyday lives. Because if we don't, we see increasing trends in light depression going up tremendously. In Germany, it's almost an epidemic now. Sadness and lethargy and all these feelings. It's not clinical yet, but it might get there eventually. And it's just that as a society, we've sort of we neglected our evolutionary makeup, that we're social beings. We need people around us. We need touch. We need to feel secure. These are basic human needs. And that's where I see the biggest threat to flow.
And what's number 3?
Number 3 is something that super crazy and also not, it's related to a heavy investment. It's something I've done is an intense neurofeedback training. It's alpha wave training. Well, there are cheaper options as well where you can use neurofeedback in order to train yourself and to get into a state of flow. How does that work? So I explained already, going offline and meditation are two ways. Now, neurofeedback is sort of a technologically enhanced meditation where you have electrodes on your head, sometimes devices, they measure your brain waves, and they give you immediate and accurate feedback in terms of some pleasant, it could be music, it could be a movie. Actually, I've done that before where you watch a movie, and then when you get into a stressful state, the beta state, then black dots would show up all over the movie.
Okay.
And then subconsciously your brain would notice, okay, wait, this is not the right direction. And so you can sort of try to de-stress and calm yourself down.
Interesting.
And then all of a sudden the picture would become brighter and wider again. And that is something very powerful because you pretty much,
interesting.
Your subconscious is working like in a gym to produce these states that you want. So like theoretically, you could also get feedback to the negative states, but obviously then you choose the states that you really want, where you feel happy. And I've done that for a whole week combined with psychotherapy. It's a program called BioCybernaut, and it's really bad for your hair because you get glue all over your head, and you have electrodes.
BioCybernaut.
BioCybernaut.
Interesting.
And they have a center. They opened one in Germany as well. They're from the US. They have one in Canada. And I was lucky enough to do that, and it's amazing. Like, it's 7 days, about 13, 14 hours a day, and then you confront it really with your deepest fears and insecurities and everything, because it's almost like a real life lie detector test.
Okay.
Where they notice if you're telling bullshit.
So is it like faster sort of therapy, but on
steroids?
It's
like, imagine that you meditate every day for, let's say, 2 years or even longer, and then and once a week you go to psychotherapy. Yeah. So that's that, but put into 7 days.
Very cool.
So quite intense. And it's like, the image I have is like you throw the sandbags out of your hot air balloon, just because we always try to put gas and hot air in it and to fly higher, but sometimes it's just easier to get rid of the weight.
Yeah. I have one question here from our live stream viewers, and do send us your questions because we have speakers here who are really happy to answer all of them. What's your favorite products or innovations to quantify if you're in flow?
Well, neurofeedback would be actually one. So there are devices out there. I'm a bit skeptical with how accurate they sometimes are. So the most accurate, I've done is really in a lab, where you get electrodes and then you observe your state of flow in your brain waves. I think the easiest is really to measure your alpha wave activity, because alpha waves, so when you think about brain waves, delta is the slowest, and it's when you're in deep sleep. Then theta is when you're in a meditative state. Alpha is when it's a bit faster. It's the daydreaming flow state. Some would say that flow is somewhere jumping from alpha to theta and back and forth, like almost meditating, but still awake and aware and absorbing things.
Yeah.
And then there's beta, and then there's gamma. And so in flow, you also release a bunch of chemicals like dopamine and adrenaline and so on. And your prefrontal cortex shuts off, but that's hard to measure. But you can do that as well. But I think the easiest for someone at home is use neurofeedback in order to measure your brain waves to look at if you're in flow. I know there's a lot happening in the industry right now. There are companies popping up left and right. They come out with technologies, and that's I'm eager to see what's there in the future. I can't recommend anything right now that you can buy actually and bring home, because I haven't tested that for their accuracy. But the Muse headband is one that is being thrown around in the industry right now, and to help you meditate.
We have a lot of corporates watching today. Do you have any tips on how to organize offices in a way that would optimize flow for employees?
Well, the first step would definitely be to help people not get distracted. I mean, distractions are number one flow blockers. And it's even like, it could be emails, it could be people interrupting you, it could be music, it could be, these open workplaces, they're full of distractions, welcome distractions. So have people work for several hours on a task, allow them that you can enabling them to do that. That would already help. well, noise canceling headphones really work, to shut off also distractions. Then also, I mean, your desk is sort of an image of your mind. So, keep as a worker, keep that clean. Keep only the tasks in front of you that you actually want to work on. If you have everything open to remind you that there's still stuff to do, it's really hard to get in flow. Also, one problem with flow is why it's so difficult to get into a corporate world is you have to get out of the linear time system. So when you're in a linear time system, you're not in flow. Flow is, like I said, if you want to live high, you have to live outside of time. And is that concept when you lose yourself in the moment, when you let's say with your loved one, and you lose track of time, that's exactly what flow feels like. And also a painter, is working on his art piece. If you time him, you say you can work now, you can paint for 20 minutes, and then it's over. It's really hard to get into a flow state. So I think that stepping out of that time frame, give people some time during the week at work to work open-ended and to really say, okay, you need to get that project done, but now, like, you have the whole week to do it. Like, take the time and schedule it, and then it's often better for them than to become creative. If it's just monotone tasks, you might not need, a flow state to get them done. But also, people just feel happier and more successful when they are. So I think everyone should.
And we have one last question from our live streamers. When was the last time you had a soulgasm?
I had one. I'm sure I had one today.
Thank you to everyone on live stream. We have Max Gotzler here at the Biohacker Summit 2019. We'll be back very soon with more interviews.
Thank you. Go for flow.